Alright, so we've got the hinge pieces, got those all made up, and then I modified the design like I was mentioning a little bit earlier ago. This is 2.5 inch quarter wall pipe. Problem with that stuff is when you try and slide a 2 inch into it, it's got that seam. So what I did is I cut it on the bias in the corners. That does two things. It gives me inside access to grind that seam down, so we'll get a nice surface to slide on. It also, when I re-weld this, if I would have cut on a flat spot and had to V it, I would have had to been really careful because the weld would have basically filled right back in like the seam did already. But we'll see if we can. But by cutting it on the corners there, is what it does is it does two things. If you can see right there, maybe that's focused. It gives me a little bit of room because of the radius on the 2 inch versus the inside radius of the 2.5 inch. I've got just a little bit of room that when I weld those, I can actually penetrate, you know, about a 1/16, maybe a little bit more on each side, and that's without the shims. And the way I'll do it is I'll do a vertical down weld. And since I'm not looking for, you know, maximum penetration because I've already got that cut open, so I'm not worried about getting deep into the weld, the vertical down is going to be fine. I've ground these edges so that when I do weld it, it's kind of V'd out a bit so I can fill that in. So just like Jeremy did on his, I'm going to use pop can shims. I'm just going to lay them in there, you know, and we'll clamp that together, and then we'll get it all tacked together in 6 or 8 places, and that after we clamp it, and then we'll weld it, and then we'll get the hinges. Hinges, I've also ground the bottoms off of those, so once I get those on there, or once I get this welded, I've got that 3/8 inch all thread in there, so it'll keep it nice and it'll keep that hinge straight. I'm going to drop a 1/4 inch piece of something in between to keep the distance set, and then we'll set that up and we'll weld those hinges on there as well. We'll tighten those up a little bit so that everything, and that way I can also control the distance between the hinges with that piece of all thread, so that I can get the distance just where I want it. Hey guys, so tonight I'm gonna pack it in. It's about 2 in the morning right now. I've got work tomorrow, next 2 days after that, and then I've got a couple things going those couple days after that while I've got some time off. But you can see here I've got it all mocked up here in the background. I'll kind of go over it with you real quick. So I've got the motor mocked up on there. Just some bolts. I couldn't get that bolt in there right now because it's just too tight and I'm not going to fight it, so I just got a C-clamp so that I can mock it up, because I wanted to see where this wheel was compared to the rest of the frame. And right now, as it sits without adjusting everything, right here the wheel is 3 inches from this surface and 3 1/16 from this surface, so pretty close to nice and parallel. But we'll adjust that plate just a bit before we put a brace in there or something to keep it from moving. This wheel up here, this face sits about 1/4 inch off of this face, so this is 2 3/4 from the face of that wheel, so everything's lining up pretty good, nice and straight. You can see I've got a gap down there in the center just to kind of hold it apart. The tubes are fitting nice. I had to kind of do some cleaning up in the inside of the tube with a long file, but that's working great. So I've got it mounted here on a tripod stand. You can see there I've just got some bolts there in the feet right now. We're going to get some leveling feet eventually to put on there, some good quality ones so it doesn't vibrate. But I'm not putting mine on a table in a fixed position. My shop's kind of small. It's 20 by 20, and I need pretty much everything in my shop to be movable. Everything else is kind of mobile. All my welders, my table saw, pretty much everything. So right now we're going to call that tonight. Like I said, I'm going to head in, take a shower, go to bed, and to you it'll just be this video will fade out and we'll start back up, you know, mocking up that tracking wheel and some other things. But for me it'll probably be 4 or 5 days, so we'll see you in a second. Alright guys, so I'm back out here tonight, and trying to get this. So I've got to get the idler wheel mounted first so that it's level with this before I can build the platen, or mount the platen I should say. I ordered a platen, so I've already got that, but I need to build the piece for that, and that is just like Jeremy's, where that's going to sit there on a hinge. I'm not going to bore you with all the parts that I cut. You've seen enough cutting, but and then there's the platen, kind of mocked up a little bit. But here's what's going to be the hinge. That idler wheel will mount right there. So I'm going to go ahead and weld that up real quick, and we'll get that stuff mounted so that we can get some measurements for where the platen goes. So as you guys can see, I got the belt on it for the first time. It's tracking really well. I'll show you here real quick. I don't have any electricity hooked up to it yet, but just running it with my hand. It's running nice and straight. It's not coming off the wheels or anything. Test run. So I built this for one basic reason. You know, I'm not really a knife maker. I might make a few. I'm more of a shop guy, just like to build things. But in watching a couple of guys use these 2x72s, they are just absolutely phenomenal tools. You know, I've got an old, not an old, but a Porter Cable 4x36 belt grinder, but its RPMs aren't up there. It's only got I think a half or a 3/4 horsepower motor on it, and it's got the 8-inch disc. You'll see me using it to build some of the stuff to build this thing, to build some of this. But is what really sold me is when I was actually watching Jeremy Schmidt's video. He does a test grind where he pushes some metal into it, and I'm going to do that here with this one in a second. But it just absolutely decimates that metal, and it's so quick. So anyway, it's just an awesome tool. Works really well for what I'm going to use it for what anybody's going to use it for, because they're just phenomenal. So I'm going to take you on a quick walk through it. So controller's a KB Genesis. You flip it on and just adjust it 100% all the way down. I got the option with the forward and reverse. I'll probably never use the reverse, but I've got it anyway. These are all 2.5-inch quarter wall, 2-inch quarter wall. Everything else is 3/8-inch plate. The motor is a 1 horsepower 220 volt motor. The Platten here I ordered off of Amazon. These I ordered from a knife maker that for, I don't know, I'll put all the prices for everything down at the bottom. Right now I've just got a 180 grit belt on there, just to kind of test it out and see how it's doing. Even with a 180 grit belt, it is cutting 10 times faster than any other belt sander I've used. So it's doing really well. It is about, kind of hear it run. And as far as vibration goes, there is a little bit, but you can see that bolt pretty much is just sitting still. Not a lot of movement whatsoever. It tracks really well, you can see. Got everything kind of centered up. This table right here is adjustable. It tilts down to a 45 degrees so that you can, you know, tilt and cut at angles. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, tagging along on this build. I'm going to get a lot of use out of this. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We'll be building more stuff in the future. Thanks.